And that doesn't mean everything in your present condition is wrong or bad or negative. It just means that you are capable of so much more. That's the beauty of the book, right? You've read this. It's regardless, the first sentence, regardless of your present condition. It's letting you know, no matter where you are in this moment, there are options, levels, tiers, exploration and discovery beyond what is at face value.
What is happening cognitively when someone says, I had no choice, even when technically they did?
But that's powerful. That's an empowered move. Even if I am wanting to freak out, I'm choosing to do it. I need to release the energy, the emotion. You're choosing it. That's an empowered choice, opposed to I'm just doing it because it's a pattern, or because it's the easy thing to do, or because it's just, I don't care.
And they had three groups. One group did nothing. One group did only practice, and the other group that did all mental practice. You literally have to prepare your mind to do them before, because they are so intense and so full body involved that you can never think you can't do it, because you simply wouldn't.
Hey Conscious Man 7 family, quick question before we start. Do you love the depth of these conversations but hate when ads break the flow? I get it. Ads can feel like speed bumps on a highway, pulling you out of that deep zone. That's why we created a way for you to enjoy every episode completely ad-free while supporting the show at the same time. For just a few bucks a month on Patreon or Locals, you'll get full access to uninterrupted episodes. You'll get direct access to me so you can ask me any questions that you have, some cool other perks like early releases, and you'll also help us keep bringing you the powerful conversations that mainstream platforms won't touch. The link is in the show notes. Join us there and be part of this movement. Ever look up and see those dull, grey skies streaked with chemtrails, and you feel your energy sink? You're not imagining it. Something in you knows the sky isn't supposed to look that way. But what if you could bring back the blue? What if there was a way to clear the air inside you and above you? That's where the 𝗵𝗵𝗄 comes in. They create powerful orgonite, tools that generate orgone energy, the life force that helps neutralize EMFs from your mobile phone, your Wi-Fi, and even 5G. It's nature's way of restoring balance, bringing cleaner air, calmer energy, and deeper sleep. Every piece from the 𝗵𝗵𝗄 is handmade, from tactical tower busters to beautiful pyramids and jewelry, crafted with the precise ingredients to generate real orgone energy. And here's the best part. They've proven it. For over 10 years, they've cleared thousands of miles of chemtrails, bringing the blue back to the skies around the world. So if you're ready to take back your weather and your well-being, go to theKEMBO.com. Use coupon code CM7 for 10% off and experience the shift for yourself. Don't fear the chemtrails or the EMF. Be empowered with the 𝗵𝗵𝗄 and never feel helpless again. If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share, because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand 𝗨𝗏. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at @Adriano_246, and it will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned, because we have some more great content coming soon. Most people believe they are working on themselves. Brennan Ballet says most people are actually repeating unconscious limitations, just with better language. Hello friends, welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I am your host 𝗨𝗏𝗿𝗄𝗏. Today's guest is Brennan Ballet, a #1 best-selling author of The Science of Empowerment, a global thought energy strategist and human potential activator. Laura's work challenges one of the most comfortable lies in modern self-development, that awareness alone is enough to change your life. Laura teaches that empowerment is not about forgiveness without authority, positivity without structure, or healing that never restores power. She introduces a different framework, one where choice becomes a discipline, challenges are engineered for evolution, and thought energy becomes the architecture of lived reality. This conversation will challenge how you relate to your past, your emotions, and your sense of urgency. It will likely disrupt beliefs you didn't realize were limiting you. And if it feels uncomfortable at moments, that may be the signal you're stepping closer to the power seat of choice. This is not motivation. This is mental authority.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You gotta be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it,
Laura, welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. How are you today?
Oh, I'm fabulous. I had such a good time talking with you before we started the recording, which is sometimes always the sweet gem of meeting each other. I'm excited. Any opportunity to, as we said, inspire, empower, offer wisdom and insight is just an honor.
Yes, I am looking forward to talking to you today because, like I was telling you, I found myself, because I listened to your book, and I found myself nodding quite a bit because everything that you spoke about is basically what occurred to me in my journey. And my journey, as I was telling you, a lot of the wisdom came from psychedelics and also from reading a lot of different books. And my whole journey really started from the Anunnaki, and that's how I actually got into a lot of this information, delving down the Lost Book of Enki, the Sumerian tablets, the 𝗵𝗵𝗍𝗄, the 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗁, etc. And it led me to spirituality, and then also about in terms of accountability of myself and having personal responsibility. And your book talks a lot about that. And, so I'm really interested to talk to today and delve into everything that your book covers and everything that you do as well. So let's start with your origin and maybe the first fracture. So you've said you had a unique relationship with thought from childhood. When did you first realize that most people didn't experience their thinking the way you did?
Well, because I started observing that people were doing the same thing over and over again and not being really happy. So I'm a happy kid. I've always been a happy human, even though I am not exempt from trauma and tragedies and drama and chaos. We all live in the human condition. So we all experience some variation of challenge. However, there was something in the way I thought about thinking that was different, even when I was very young. I can look back, whether I was in a classroom or I was competing athletically, I just knew that if I thought about something, I could actually experience it. And of course, within common sense here. I may have thought I could, jump off the roof of our house, which my brother and I tried to do with umbrellas, and I twisted my ankle. Lesson learned. But I really did think that I had the power to think things into manifestation. And that's worked pretty well for me throughout my life. And I'm not saying think about something and therefore it will appear. I'm saying that when you apply thought energy, and we'll get into energy, and you do it in a way that creates empowered energy, IN, you now will begin to experience an empowered life. So think differently, you'll begin to feel differently. And when you feel differently, you now will start to move through life differently.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you think differently and you feel differently, you act differently.
Totally.
So it makes total sense that everything starts with the thought. This is why the all is mind and the universe is mental, you know? So this is one.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
And that's basically one of the 7 Hermetic principles and one of the keys to the universe, you know, your thoughts, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think people give that enough thinking. They just go through life. You know, we wake up and we're born and we have experiences, and before we know it, life has like passed us by. And in the middle of it, we feel a lot of pain and angst and maybe more unhappiness than we wish. And so then our mind is like, well, why aren't I living like, you know, a movie star? We think, but not quite in a way that authorizes our highest and best self to show up. I think when we connect with the power of thought energy, and not just thought, but the energy behind the words and the formation of those words, the language of how are we speaking to ourselves. So for instance, you know, when I went off to middle school, I was 11, I remember thinking, I'm going to be popular. I'm going to have lots of friends. I'm going to become a cheerleader. There were these things that I was thinking about at a young age. You know, I had cousins that were older. I saw them with friends and doing different athletics. And I started to think as if I was priming myself to experience something. And I did. And so I think that there's a power to becoming aware of how am I thinking? Don't get up every day and let this be a burden. Just when you awake to the morning, set your mind in a more positive direction. Today, I choose to think, and then fill that in.
Absolutely. So was there a moment where your way of thinking isolated you rather than empowered you?
Well, yes, probably in full honesty, like anything, when we start to separate ourselves from the masses, we do start to feel isolated, but it wasn't in a negative way. I just realized that I had my own way of looking at things, and it wasn't that someone else's way was incorrect. I just was learning that this feels right for me. This feels comfortable. It felt like home inside my own psyche or my consciousness. So I didn't feel isolated in a negative way. I just knew that I had my own path and it might not align with the masses. And I was okay with that.
For sure, because I think that's just part of the journey. From the time you start to realize that the world isn't the way it is, I think that's a natural part of the journey, you know? So before the science of empowerment, what belief about yourself had to collapse for this work to emerge?
Oh, I love this question. I just was interviewed for an article, and it was around this question because people think, oh, you look, talk, walk, live a certain way, therefore, and they fill in all the answers for you. Or you've written a book or you've accomplished something, therefore you must be lucky or whatever that is. I chose not to go to university and to educate myself at that higher level, but it was something I always wanted to do. But I was an entrepreneurial spirit. I always had businesses and was very creative. So I put my energy out there. When it came time to live out this childhood dream of wanting to write a book, really intending to write something of value that had purpose, even if 10 people read it and it changed one life, I was like, that's going to be cool. I used to give myself a very hard time feeling undereducated, under the radar. Like, in order to write a book, you must have a doctorate in order to talk about alchemy, i.e. science, you must have explored and fill in the blank. I had this notion that in order to be brilliant, I had to have the designations and the accreditations behind my name in order to own my particular style of brilliance. And this is something I write about in the book. Every human is brilliant. Every human is beauty and power. we all have our own way of tuning into that and then experiencing it and then sharing it. And again, it doesn't always align with every single person. But for me, I had to really crack that code of I need to be educated in this way, have this many, these many degrees, so that it validates what I want to say and what I want to share. It was a big hurdle, challenge to get over, through, under, past for me to be like, no, because there's so many people that I admire that were undereducated and have changed the world. So I chose to look at those points of mentorship. Some I connected to, some just through a book or a movie or art or whatever. And then I would be like, oh, they don't have degrees. That she didn't go to college. He didn't even graduate past 8th grade. Look at what they've accomplished, because the power of thought energy instilled this momentum in them to go after something outside of what was expected. And that was really create and authorize your own personal journey.
But imagine that you're a #1 best-selling author and you had that belief about yourself, which just goes to show that every single body creates these stories in their head that are simply not real. And then we attach to these stories and we think that they are the absolute gospel truth. And we don't take time to analyze, is this actually true or just how I feel or just how I think about myself, So,
or how I was told to think.
True.
Which is more of what we are, right? From childhood,
True.
We're pretty much told at the directive of someone else's story how to move and grow and become. We're not really taught from early on how to be self-actualized. And again, I write about that in The Science of Empowerment. I think it's one of the most important journeys a human can take in our lifetime, self-actualization. And that's such a beautiful and unique journey. It's like a thumbprint. It's yours, only yours. And no one should really have directive. You can have influences like I did and you did. Look, we have a commonality of Anunnaki and Sumerian, and going back into the study of real, true science and alchemy of empowerment way back in the day. Most people don't even think about it.
Absolutely not. And that sounds very much like, call it self-discovery. You use empowerment. And the thing, what I realize is that from talking to so many people, we have slightly different terms, but we're really talking about the same thing. So you describe empowerment as a birthright. Why do so few people ever access it?
I love this too. Yeah, again, I think it's something. So personally, I think we're slated. I think the mind and the consciousness is set at 0 when we enter into physicality with very little memory. However, I think as we move through life, this is why we are attracted to what we're attracted to. Something starts letting us know that there's something beyond what we've settled for. So we may not connect to the birthright of energy, faith, wisdom, insight, maybe off-world, off-planet knowledge, however you want to look at it. But it's there. It's in the DNA. It's coded. This is why so many of us, through whether psychedelics or studying ancient theory or looking at modern sciences, something like ignites in us and it interests us and we get excited and we want to further our exploration into that. And so I think the reason why we don't connect to it is no one reminds us that it's ours. It's there. How many of us have something right in front of us and we ignore it our whole life? How many of us see what's wrong and yet we do nothing about it? Or we know what could course correct and we still stay in the pattern of what has us off that course. So I really think that if I can impart a gem of ignition to the listeners, it is coded in your DNA. all that is possible. All that is possible. Now, there are maybe restrictions and conditions and limitations, meaning we're in physical form. So someone will be thinking, well, it's my birthright too. And then they fill in the blank. And that may not be of common sense in this time frame where we are in this century. So I think you have to use some care and consideration to the conversation here. However, you know right from wrong, positive from negative. You know if you are happy and living into your fullest being. And if you are not, that's your birthright talking to you. That's the coding looking to be cracked or switched on, that you were meant for so much more than you have settled for. And that doesn't mean everything in your present condition is wrong or bad or negative. It just means that you are capable of so much more, and just be reminded of it. That's the beauty of the book, right? You've read this. It's regardless, the first sentence, regardless of your present condition. It's letting you know, no matter where you are in this moment, there are options, levels, tiers, exploration and discovery beyond what is at face value.
Okay, so would you say is empowerment rare because it's complex, or because most people resist responsibility more than they admit?
Oh, that's beautifully said. Yeah, they resist it. When you own your empowerment, now you are accountable for everything. And most of us don't want to be accountable for anything. It's so much easier to say, my father did this, my mother did this, my siblings are this way. It was my boss. Oh, that was a terrible teacher. Oh, the economics. Let's not even go down the political arena. We could blame everyone but ourselves. And when we do, guess what? It gives us no time to look within. And many of us don't want to look within.
Absolutely. And I find that today we have more a victim mentality than a victor mentality. And I find that all of the things that you said just now in terms of economics, government, the politics, and then I will throw in religion, they create victims. And I say that, I have coined this, I don't know what everyone wants to say that, but I say that the three main religions that rule the planet are the religion of money, the religion of government, and organized religion. And those three religions are for weak-minded people that are followers of these religions. And I also say that religion is for the mentally weak, because spirituality tells you to take accountability for yourself, for your thoughts, your words, and your deeds. And all we have is a bunch of people following these three religions and just are victims because everyone is to blame and no one takes accountability or responsibility for themselves because, hey, someone else will do the thinking for me, or someone else will save me, or, this body didn't deliver for me, instead of saying, well, no, I need to do it myself,
And I think some of us are born maybe missing that mindset lane, of not wanting to do it for yourself. There's gratification, there's appreciation, there's growth when we set forth and we accomplish. There's nothing, no money, no religion, no government, nothing can give you that particular feeling. Only you. Now, different religions can give you hope and can help build faith. Governments can protect certain things, safe roads to drive on, whatever that may be. Money, we live in a money matrix. Money can be a means to something. However, unless you do something with your faith, learning compassion, non-judgmental attitudes, expressing real deep compassion for other people's point of view, etc., unless you know what it is to move through a process, figure things out for yourself, you're never going to arrive to this really authenticated place. It's always going to be based on what someone else said, someone else did and how they directed you to now act. So I think it's really important, for everyone, find your own way, as you and I have talked about, however that may be, but to count on others so that you live a life that feels right for you. That's giving away your birthright. That's disempowering you.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about why personal development doesn't work today. So you've spoken about thought energy versus positive thinking. What is personal development getting fundamentally wrong?
Again, I think personal development, not always, but at times can be based on someone else's directive. Someone writes a book and tells you how to be, how to handle. Someone like me who wrote a book didn't tell you any of that. I just gave information, imparted some knowledge, maybe some new perspective as to how you can now change the way those things are happening in your life. Challenges, obstacles, limitations. There's a difference between thinking positive and owning thought energy. So you can think whatever you want to think. If you don't have the right energetic structure behind that thinking, you will never take action. Therefore, you'll just keep thinking positively, but nothing will happen. Thought allows you to be accountable. It brings an awareness into your field of being. I desire to lose weight. If you were like thinking every day, I just want to lose weight, nothing's going to happen. If you move on thought, the energy of action will follow. If you rely on just positive thinking, patterns will repeat. We see it all the time. It's why personal development is a unique path. We can gather, but it needs action. It needs a certain thinking process. It needs a certain ignition or activator. It needs a discipline and a structure. And it needs that connection to what we just spoke about, wanting to experience your own autonomy, your own genius, your own brilliance. I want to do something so I validate myself, because this is what I want to do for me. Doesn't matter about what anyone thinks on the outside. Now, of course, we don't want to ever do anything and cause disharmony out in the world. And we're not saying we don't care what people think. That's not it either. But meaning when we're on the right path and we're doing something that is going to create a higher level of being in this world, we automatically will create more positive energy out in the world. But there is a fundamental difference with how we think in order to activate what we will experience. And then what can we contribute from that?
This is why I always say that you must take action, because without taking action, you can't get any results. And I use a slightly different framing. I say that you don't get what you want, you get what you have to have. If you have to have it, you will get it, because you use the example of losing weight. And what happens in some cases of people is they have to lose weight because their life depends on it. That thought process changes immediately because they have to have it, because it's like no choice. So I tell people, well, instead of waiting till you have no choice, use the have to have mindset because your life depends on it in the present. So you are giving yourself that drive and impetus, right? But sadly, people like to stay in their comfort zones and they want things and they desire, because another word for wanting is the desire. And your desires, they're great, but they don't actually give you the things you want without taking action, you know?
My brother always says wanting has nothing to do with it. Because you can want until you transition from the body. You could spend your whole life wanting things. So wanting it's a dead end.
Absolutely.
You have to intend it. You have to empower it. You have to think it differently. You have to shift, grow, evolve, elevate, right? We all have a different vernacular. Everybody has their own unique language. So whatever words feel right for you. But if you want change, you must be the driver of that change. You can acquire skills and tools and formulas. You can read books. You can listen to, mentors. You can hire coaches. We're in this business. Fundamentally, you have to align with that. And as you said, some people need to know, if I don't do this, I will die. That's a different story. However, there are a copious amount of examples of people that needed to change and didn't and died. And I know a few people, whether it's drinking, whether it's, smoking, vaping, overeating, non-exercise, staying in abusive relationships, staying in jobs that are just absolutely deadening the soul, and they don't move. So I think this is where personal development is an alignment to the higher self. It's an alignment to the consciousness that resides within the human condition. And this isn't to put a religious or a spiritual twist on it. Again, each listener can take it in. So there's someone that can relate to this conversation through the eyes of God. There's someone that can relate to it through the eyes of a butterfly. It just depends. That's the cool thing about personal development. But we are here in physicality in order to evolve. And if you are doing anything less than evolving on a consistent basis, you're not living into your fullness of why we are here.
Agreed. So is the obsession with healing sometimes a way to avoid reclaiming authority?
I would say yes, if you are placing the healing outside of yourself. Again, so what I'm about and what I teach and coach and speak on is really this authorization of becoming a self-actualized human. Anything outside of that, though, may be a positive contributor, is still neglecting, and we'll talk about this, that power seat of choice. So if we're healing through medication, I don't know, is that avoiding that part of yourself that can heal? If we're looking for outside influence, are you giving up the opportunity to influence self? So I think it depends on at what stage of growth a person is, what stage of opening are they arriving to? Someone that's cut off, I don't want to grow, or I don't want to hear this, or this doesn't make any sense, and I only follow this doctrine. That's one case. Someone I'm open to everything. Like me, I am open to everything. Let me hear what you have to say. Let me learn about what you are investing your time in. It may not align with me. It may not work for me. It may not resonate, but I will be a smarter, more wise human because I took the time to listen to someone else. So I think healing, that's like personal development. There's a lot of branches off that tree. And I think healing means something different to a lot of people. I've personally gone through, my father passed away in this past year and went through heart issues and hospice. That was a very unique experience of healing. The hospice care workers, something I've never come kind of in front of. I didn't have any reason to. So it opened my eyes to something very different. So I have a different take maybe on healing through medicine, through doctors and hospitals at a time when nothing else would have worked. So I think we all have to just be mindful and have a lot of care and consideration to what we're doing. But I am a true believer that healing unto self is very doable.
Yeah, and I think that, what you were saying is almost like people relegate their healing externally. because it's like you find like today in the medical realm is, oh, take a pill for this. But by the way, you have all these XYZ side effects, but see your doctor, XYZ, boom, boom, boom. But hey, this still works, you know? And people like,
you may die.
okay, great. You know me, I'll just take this pill because I don't have to change my nutrition. I'll take this pill because I don't have to, you know what I mean, do XYZ. So again, it's always like this putting of the thing externally, which is like you said, the healing externally, instead of saying, well, no, actually, maybe if I eat better food, maybe if I learn to cook, maybe if I look at my food sources, which is all, you know, the internal part of it, then maybe I can make myself better, you know? But no one seems to see it that way. We have this indoctrination.
Get outside. Maybe if I breathe some fresh air, take a small walk. I had a client struggling with many things, many challenges. And we started with her putting sneakers on, walking through the house, going out to the front door and sitting on the front step. That was all she could do in that moment of her present challenge. Her whole life is different now because she decided, I can move slowly, carefully, one step at a time. And if I look at the end result, I'll get overwhelmed and I'll never take initiative to do anything. One day at a time. But yes, we place, again, so much outside of ourselves, which is why so many of us are easily swayed by the masses, right? Very few of us are outliers. It's quite a unique journey to stand outside of the gang or the crowd or the group and have a different opinion, a different perspective, because what usually comes at you, they all turn and they go at you. So it's not like an easy experience to move away from what is in our comfort zone. What is easy for us? We're kind of born and bred for easiness, right? But some people rob and steal and kill to have something easy, right? I remember here in the States, some things were going on in New York City. I think it was called smash and grab, and they were breaking into all the very high-end stores and they were stealing, just walking out with handbags and clothes and jewelry. For some reason, maybe that mindset was, well, that was easy. I'll do it. Instead of, well, someone had to put so much work into building that store and that business and all the people that have to do with that. I think I'd like to be a part of that. I'd like to be part of that team. I'd like to work at creating something that other people can enjoy rather than take. Just an example of different mindsets. So I think for each person, even if they are on the trajectory of, let's say, negativity, maybe take a break, neutralize the pattern or the behavior of thinking that may lead you down that path and start to think, maybe I can do something differently, whether it's healing, faith, religion, money, etc. We all have this incredible data system right here, sits on top of the body. It can take in information, it can recalibrate it, and then it can behave out. You are responsible for what you allow in. You are accountable for how you configure that information. And I think it is the human responsibility to do the correct thing outside in the world. For all of us, that's a personal challenge. Absolutely. What you said earlier, that there are hardly any outliers, and there's just this massive group thing where, as we say in Barbados, there's follow pattern. Everyone just following everyone, So, yeah, so to see someone bucking the trend or going against the grain is an absolute rarity now. So, in your work, where do you see people unconsciously reinforcing limitations while believing they're growing? Oh, that's so great. We all do this, right? We think we're moving forward, but we're not, right? This is the busyness of life. As long as I'm doing and I'm busy, I'm accomplishing. This is something that I personally went through and learned how to recalibrate that way of thinking. Because I thought if I were busy, it could just, doesn't matter, attending the garden, dropping my kids off to school, taking a class, working at my job, whatever it may be, well, that's enough. But it just isn't. You have to, I don't want to say have to. It benefits each of us to, again, expand the limitation, expand the boundary, go outside of the zone of what we are accustomed to, become that outlier, become that source of, I always say this, ignition, where maybe in the group, somebody recognizes that person just split from the group. What are they all about? Maybe go check that out rather than follow the system. So I don't know if that quite answered the question, but it just made me think about that. Like, how many of us really settle? We settle in the day-to-day busyness, thinking that we're somehow becoming more and accomplishing more. Yet each decade we realize I didn't move too much from 10 years ago. What have I accomplished? Now, yes, maybe we fall in love or we raise families. Maybe we, shift positions. Maybe we do create a new career. I think there's moments that we tune into something that really does allow the space to feel some growth, but the majority of our energy is it's at a set point almost every day. And I think the outlier is a little bit of extension outside of that comfort zone, where it should be the other way around. It should be constant touch points of newness and exploration and discovery and challenge and development and personal evolution. And the sameness gets less and less. That density of monotony gets less and less. And that feeling that you get, the butterflies, the excitement, the energy of what can I do? What can I explore? Who can I now become? I think this is at least one of the drivers for me to create the Science of Empowerment, to spark that awareness in the reader, the listener. Come on, wake up. There's so much more to do. And at the end of this life, really, how do you want to look back at it? And I do this exercise with my clients when they're up against a real heavy challenge. We sit as if we were on the rocking chairs, little old people, and we look back. What is that story that we want to view? How do we want to observe our place in this time in history? As a partner, a wife, a husband, as a mother, a father, an uncle, an aunt, whatever it may be, how do I want to perceive how I shifted my energy? How did I truly grow? And how did I break the cycles and the patterns, the behaviors and the habits that really didn't serve me personally or the collective?
Yeah, I realize that we tend to get into these routines of disempowerment where we do these things that we just do them. They don't really add much value in our life, and we never actually question them, and we end up into these like loops and death spirals, and we just keep going, and it's very difficult to break them. And then you would have someone say, well, just speak about you want to achieve this. So with that being said, why do affirmations fail so many people?
Oh, yeah. I just read an article about this. Again, I think this goes back to affirmations, when we write them or we speak them, are something that we want to experience. Affirmations, lots of women out there know, they have their list. And I suppose men also, right? Like our perfect partner, our list. So I think the affirmations, they could be used for a moment in time as a reflective mechanism. What am I thinking? What is it that I'm wanting? But then what happens is everyone stops at it. So this is where the J3 = E, the formula at the foundation of the science and power comes in. So let's say you have an affirmation. I want to fall in love. I'll just use that. What is my awareness around love? What does it mean to me and for me? Very few people ask that. They just want to fall in love. What am I willing to do about experiencing falling in love? Most people don't. They just want the person to appear. What's my accountability to it? Am I asking for something that I myself am not presenting? Oof, that's why I'm probably not falling in love. Ooh. Right? Yeah. Critical thinking. I'm so emotional about love, but I don't have a clear and rational thought process about what love really is, what it can be, and what it ends up being. I've been in love for 15 years. I have a family. It's not what I thought it was in the beginning. It's exactly what I knew it would become because I thought this through at the beginning of choosing a lifelong partner. Energy. What kind of energy am I putting into this affirmation about love? Am I just expecting it? Am I demanding it? Am I commanding it? Am I wanting someone to show up and fix it all up nice and pretty for me? Or am I, again, reflecting it back onto myself so that I can become aware, willing, accountable, think critically, and put energy into it? So that was just a little movement through the 𝗂3=E formula on something that we all know we've experienced, wanting love.
You know, right? It's like, because I said to you before that the stuff in your book are things that I learned from experience, and I didn't have the ability to have like interactions with the people that you had or stuff. And there's something that I always say, you can't give someone something that you don't already have. So if you want to have love in your life, you need to be love, because in order to be love, they need to take accountability to yourself and fix yourself. Because what's going to happen is when you get in a relationship with someone, all the things that you didn't work on are going to come up and they're just going to be a mirror. So if you want somebody to love you, you need to love yourself first. And what does that mean? Well, in my case, loving myself means being in shape. It means talking to myself kindly. It means holding myself accountable. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So I am not telling someone that, oh, to be with me, you need to be that. But because I am that energy I'm putting out, I'm going to attract that in my life. So basically what you're saying is, well, you need to work on yourself first if you actually want to be in love, because you need to be loved, right? Yeah. Which is where I always say, you can't give someone something you don't already have. And people look at me, how do you mean? I say, okay. So if I have £50 in my pocket, I can give you £50. But if I don't have £50 in my pocket, I can't give you. And then like, yeah, okay, I get it now. So I always use that breakdown, of £50. And they're like, okay, I get it now. So basically you need to be loved. Yeah. So whatever that looks like to you and for you, you be it. And then that person will come into your life. But again, there's no accountability and it's almost like this disempowerment. So do you believe parts of the self-help industry actually disempower people by teaching comfort instead of authority?
Yeah, I've gone up against some of my fellow coaches and empowerment instructors in the world on this. I am unique. What separates the science of empowerment in my coaching is I acknowledge and honor the past. We all have to. Some of us have had very difficult pasts. We can run the gamut. There's abandonment, alcoholism, drug addiction, poverty, there's sexual abuse, there's just neglect. And we all see it. We all know what's out there. Okay. So we acknowledge that. And we'll talk about it and we'll move through it a little bit. But inevitably, there's going to come a moment where you are going to have to be aware that the past is defining your present. And if you stay connected to that past that's defining that present self, what do you think is going to happen a day, let alone a year from now, let alone a decade from now? So I'm a firm believer that you need to release the energy, the attachment, the story, the beliefs to the past, and really create a brand new you. And I think what happens is so many of us, and some of the greats, and there's so many that we could name, that are multimillionaires, big speakers all over the world, millions of copies of the book. And when I read them and I listen to them, I'm like, why are they still dragging the past into the conversation? And again, when you're one-on-one private coaching or working on team, leadership development skills, of course you have to acknowledge the dynamics of things. But for how long? At what point do we then decide, let's release this, and let's begin as if we were at a clean, focused, rational moment of the newness, the development of something that can empower us. So I do think that, yes, I have a fellow coach I love very much. We've been through a lot together. This person holds on to the past, always, still. All of her coaching, all of her stories, everything is still related to, I feel this way because this happened. Where if you were to kind of delve into anything I do, you rarely would be like, Laura, are you really this positive all the time? And everybody would pretty much tell you yes. If there's a negative that comes into my view, into my environment, I look at it. I am respectful to it, but I ask myself, what am I aware of around the negativity? What am I willing to do about it? What's my accountability to it? Critical thinking, I suspend the doubt. I'm known all over the world for this quote, and all my clients will tell you. I suspend it. I don't ignore it. I don't act as if it didn't have impact on me. I don't dismiss the other person's responsibility, but I suspend it long enough to begin to think with a clear and rational thought process that helps me heal, elevate, and evolve, thus releasing the hold of that. And now what did I just do? Energy, negative, positive, neutral. I neutralize negative, and now I'm on my way to a positive. And it works every time. So I do think the self-improvement, personal development industry, many of us in that position still hold steady to bringing the past too closely related to the present. I'm opposite of that. Let's acknowledge that maybe that person did something really horrible. But if you don't have a path to heal personally, one-on-one with that person, now what are we going to do? Just you and me, i.e. you. Now what can we do to get you where you deserve to be?
Right? What I like about your book is like, what you said just now is what I say, but in a different way. I say to people, you need to complete your past. And then if it is like a relationship or something, I say you have a completion conversation. So if you're going to break up, you complete it, so it's done. If you have someone that did something wrong to you, have a completion with that thing, that person, that event. So you cut the energy connecting you to that thing, so that in the future, if you happen to, it comes up in a thought or in a conversation, the energy is no longer attached there. So you can talk about it because you're free of it, because you've completed that thing. So you're not living in the past anymore. You've figuratively drawn a line in the sand and it's done, So.
And I just say real quick, I've never understood, we have this saying everywhere, if you don't learn history, it will repeat itself. And yes, there's value to this, but I've never heard anyone say, I'm so happy I dragged the anger with me. I'm so happy that I blamed that person my whole life. I'm so happy I haven't let that go. I've never met one human being that's ever felt that way. But yet so many of us live in that wake, that dragging of it. So I love that completion. And that's something really empowering to an individual, because you can write a letter. You can burn a letter. You can, again, You can start coaching and read books and listen to podcasts. You can begin something that helps support you into really letting it pass you by.
Absolutely.
You can't do anything about it. It's so done. It's so done. And sometimes when you have held on to something negative for so long, you find out that other person, they didn't even remember, or they maybe found faith or religion or spirituality, or they just said, and I had a client that just went through this, his father had passed and they never really healed. And when they talked right at the very end, the father kind of was like, well, this is what my grandfather did to my father and my father, and this is why and he had his reasoning. In his mind, that was the why. So now I said, it's still upon you. It's still, do you see? Because even if he said, and fill in what you needed him to say, you're still left with the story. You're still left with the energy structure of what you've held on to this whole time. It's still on you, 100% accountable on you to release it now.
Absolutely. So let's delve into the power seat of choice.
Oh, I love this.
So you introduced the power seat of choice. What disqualifies someone from accessing it?
Themselves. Themselves. Because everybody has it. It's in you. It goes back to the birthright. It goes back to what's coded in the DNA. You are the power. You are either power in motion or power in, disengagement. You are either the movement of power or you're the resistance to it. Again, whatever fits your own language. So it's not a disqualifying, I think, topic. It's why are you not accessing it? What's preventing you? What's limiting you? What's the block or the challenge or the obstacle for you to become empowered? And the beauty about the power seat of choice is it is around the J3=E formula. So this formula is so simple and applicable. And if I may for a moment, I always give a heartfelt acknowledgement to my brother, Chris Brennan. He created this formula as a former USA Olympic gymnastics coach. He still works with Olympians to this day. It is a formula that when he retired from that and moved back to Connecticut, we have a neuromuscular training facility. And I started listening and watching in his language. He had been gone for 20 years, though we remained exceptionally close, of course, and saw each other. So I was like, I wonder what would happen if I took this formula and I kind of moved it around a little bit for everyday people like myself. A mom, a wife, a worker, someone that has dreams and goals, but average, normal. I'm not an Olympian. I wasn't born and bred to do 10,000 reps to get a gold medal. That's a whole different mentality. How can we use this formula so everyday people can achieve a life of empowerment? And I started working it with my clients that came in for physical training. I started working the mindset. This is the way our whole training facility is structured. We have 7-year-olds that use this formula, all the way up to my oldest client who's 75. It is what I've already gone through. It is a system of principles, which is awareness, willingness, accountability, critical thinking, and energy. And then you can break all of those down, and I coach on those individually. I speak on those individually and collectively. But even if you pick one, someone hears critical thinking. I never do that. I'm emotion, raw emotion, 24/7. I know that. I used to be that. Awareness. Well, I'm aware. You're not aware, but I'm aware. Willing. I'm willing to do everything every day. You're the one that's not willing, right? Energy. I'm good. I got good energy. What's up here? Well, this is the beauty of when you run through a challenge. So everyone listening, pick a challenge that you have right now, something within reason that you could think about. Ask yourself, what is my awareness around that challenge? What am I willing to do? What is my accountability? How can I suspend the emotionality and think through critical thought energy, meaning think intellectually, think as if you were healed, empowered, and on top of your game. Energy, what did you just do right there in 10 seconds? I neutralized the negativity of that challenge just by becoming aware of it, just by exercising a willingness, by taking some accountability, by reducing the emotion and thinking with more clear and rational thought. Wow, I'm kind of neutral about this right now. I think I can actually turn this, recalibrate, shift it into something more positive. So now this puts you in the power seat of choice. Every interaction that you have going forward, act as if you are in the power seat of choice. How am I now going to interact at work, at school, out in the world, with my spouse, with my kids? Run through, what am I aware of? What am I willing to do? Where's my accountability? I'm not going to be emotional about this anymore. I've neutralized it. I now am empowering my growth while I'm empowering the dynamics. And I do this almost every moment of every day, everywhere I go. And what this does, it allows us to become a better, higher, more evolved version than we were before. And collectively, it helps to heal the human race. And we all need this.
Couldn't agree more. And so what is happening cognitively when someone says, I had no choice, even when technically they did?
Yeah, this is just patterning at its best. This is the story that we have convinced ourselves of why we are the way we are. I had no choice. They did it. They said it. They acted. I reacted. Now, there's many examples in our world where I had no choice does come into play. There's adults that hurt children that physically and emotionally are underdeveloped, and they had no choice. They just had to go with whatever was happening. So again, and I know you have a brilliant listening intellectual audience, so we're not taking those gray areas and distorting them. We're taking it in the conversation of how can we develop our mindset? How can we empower our lives from that perspective of thinking I had no choice? Now, today, you do. You can become aware that there are options. It may be you have to go to an authority outside of yourself because you need help. It may mean that you have to work a second job in order to get out of a situation that isn't conducive to your highest and best self. It may mean you have to put down the junk food in the grocery store and start shopping over in the vegetable and fruit aisle. It may mean you have to get up 15 minutes early, go to a quiet place, and just close your eyes. It may mean, and we can fill in this list 1,000 strong, it just means when you tell yourself, I had no choice, you are now telling yourself that you have no choice. And that is a dishonest self-talk conversation. You always have a choice. May not be the best, may not be the easiest. It may be very uncomfortable, but you have a choice. Start with thought energy, think differently, move where you can, act where you can, take action how you can, respectfully to yourself and your surroundings, and begin, because you absolutely have a choice. You have a brain, you have a mind, you have a consciousness, you have a heart, you have a soul. You have something in you that knows differently than that settlement. I had no choice. I have no choice. You absolutely do.
Well, the thing is that this matrix completely works off of choice, because the reason why we are where we are now in our development as a species is because the powers that shouldn't be know that choice is the law of the universe. So what they do is that they trick us to make us think we didn't have a choice, but by us subconsciously choosing the way we are, they are trying to avoid karmic retribution. So when you really look at it at a deep level, everything is based on choice. It's just the perception or the illusion that we don't have choice, which is the thing that disempowers us, gives us the repeat patterns, and causes us to self-sabotage. So walk us through the first 60 seconds of a real moment where choice overrides emotional reaction.
Oh, I love this. This just happened recently. Christmas Eve, my daughter, both my daughters, one was visiting from out of state, and my other daughter, who's still in university, lives at home. And I asked them to go pick up their grandmother for Christmas Eve dinner. And as they proceeded down our road, got to the end, stopped, yielded, took a left, went down the road, she was rear-ended. Yeah, badly. They're okay, thank God. They had a little bit of whiplash, but they're okay. What has come from that has been about 28 to maybe 30 hours of me talking to attorneys, accident specialists, repair shops, insurance people, police officers, to go to bat for my kid, because it was someone else's fault. And we all know what's out there in the world. So you have to show up hyper prepared. So I could have absolutely given in and just crumbled. I went at Christmas Eve night. We have a big party happening, celebrating. It's the first year since my dad passed. There's a lot of things going on where my husband's cooking, we're all dressed up, and 7 minutes in, we get a notification that our kids are in trouble via the car, an accident. They know, they called 911. I fully dressed down the road, saw the back of the car, and literally, and I'm a strong person. I just, the tears, because the first thing I see the officer, I'm like, are they okay? And I see both my kids in the car, like, we're okay, we're okay. So I was like, okay, it's all that mattered. That's all that mattered. So this is a situation where I could have truly, in all of my skill, I could have absolutely lost it. I quickly, within seconds, went through, what am I aware of? My kids just were in an accident. Are they okay? Yes. What am I willing to do? Take control of what I can. Who am I accountable to? My kids. Critical thinking, I'm not going to display any emotion at the moment because I'm with police. It's an accident scene. Calm and cool, and let me gather information so that I have memory of this energy. I neutralize the negative because I saw the guy just sitting there. Nothing was wrong with his truck. There's a lot more to this that I asked that was denied from our police. I love our police. We're supporters of our police. It's not anything against the police. It just happened to be a very busy Christmas Eve. It was crazy. Things happened very fast. I left the care of things in someone else's hand, which I usually don't, but I had to go pick up my stepmom. And she was already a little bit upset because it's the year anniversary of my dad passing. So I had a lot going on. I share this story to let you know that as beautiful and wonderful and almost perfect as my life always is, I too go through real challenges, and I choose to exercise the power seat of choice in all given challenges. Now, if my kids were very hurt, there would have been a lot more emotion than critical thinking. That would be understanding. So I think for people, when we are faced with a lot of emotion, a lot of triggers during a time of challenge or disruption, I don't like to use like limitations. I look at everything as a challenge because it is. And you and I've talked about this before. We went on air. It's if you perceive a challenge as something you can overcome, you can address it differently than if you look at it as something that has limits and I can't overcome it. So I know I'm moving around this, but I wanted to share and be transparent and vulnerable with the audience that I just went through something where I had to apply the very thing that I write about, the very thing that I coach about, the very thing that I speak about, that when I talk about learning to empower your reactions so you may empower your responses, it's because I live it. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, it does. And, you know, what I tell people is that we all have challenges. And what I am realizing, because I've had several challenges in the last few years, it is how I react to those challenges that makes a difference. And obviously, we all have situations that the emotions get flustered. But what I do now is I say, all right, I take like a timeout almost mentally, and I say, all right, how am I going to react to this? I'm going to choose either to freak out here, or I'm going to like, all right, let me see if I can make sense of this before if I'm going to freak out still, I'm going to choose to freak out, but I'm not going to freak out because I'm just letting total control go away, you know? And I tell people you get challenges all the time. And the thing that I realize is that when you overcome one challenge, you get like this belief in yourself that you may have these few seconds where you're about to, and then something holds you back. It's like, hold on a minute. All right, I'm doing that thing again. All right, let me think about this here quickly. All right, I can choose to freak out here, or let me make sense of this. Now, if I want to freak out still, I'm doing it because I choose to, but not because it's this impulse or this reaction, you know? So that is still a choice, and it's still a choice, you know?
Right. But that's powerful. That's an empowered move. Even if I am wanting to freak out, I'm choosing to do it. I need to release the energy, the emotion. You're choosing it. That's an empowered choice, opposed to I'm just doing it because it's a pattern, or because it's the easy thing to do, or because it's just, I don't care. And that's the difference in a very like kind of raw, contained sense. The same thing with me. I could have really lost it because I knew the guy was speeding. You could tell from the impact. I knew. But I was like, no, I'm going to respond. I'm going to respond. I'm not going to react. And I do think there's a difference to both of those, right? And most of us react. And that word is very much up in the lexicon of the human condition. We're reactionary beings because we're emotional. We just are. We're emotional on everything, the positive and the negatives of life. When we're happy, oh my God, there's nothing like a human that's happy. It's just magic.
Bucks.
And when a human is sad or negative, we see what happens. Our world gets inverted.
Bucks.
So we're emotional. However, to be evolved, to elevate, to truly move on a path of personal development and ascension, this is where we learn how to respond. We have that elegance about how we move through situations, and we become a calming force or a learning force for others. Wow, that was a tricky environment. And I remember that person calmed it down. Now you are contributing such value and such high level energy into the seeding in the mindset of others around you. There's always one person that grabs it. You may never see or know that person at all ever again, or know who it was. There's always somebody that is in alignment, on whatever level, sub or unconsciously, they're aligned, and they catch that seed and it gets implanted. And then they are involved with the challenge and they go to react, but they remember, oh, I saw that person. I remember how that felt. I know. And this is why we all strive for balance, right? We have to have the light and the dark, right? The dark shows us how we can become more lighter, and the light exposes the darkness that still exists. Empowerment helps you live more in the light and start to release the dark, so that darkness is less dense. Reaction tends to be more denser. Responses tend to be more lighter, if that's of help.
Yeah, that's a very interesting distinction. I'm going to nick that, please. Reaction versus responding. Very, very interesting. So can someone be emotionally justified and still completely disempowered?
Oof. We've got some things happening in our world right now that could probably be an example. All right, ask that question again.
All right. Can someone be emotionally justified so they can use their emotions to say, yep, I had to do that, and still completely disempowered?
I think so. If we're moving on the question as emotion, and if the emotion is reactionary, again, more negative, not happy reaction, now we are disempowering ourselves because we're back to what we just talked about. We can be emotional, but if we run through our awareness as to why am I emotional? What am I willing to do about the emotion? What's my accountability in it? By the time you get to the fourth principle, critical thinking, you're already beginning to kind of slow the patterning and the thought process of reaction down, which is neutralizing any negative energy, which actually recalibrates disempowerment. So again, this is my level of mindset where disempowerment to me can be so easily recalibrated into empowerment. So I think emotion is important. It what makes us beautiful and raw and real and vulnerable, but it's also what creates strength and confidence and resilience. And I think any opportunity you have to become aware of something that's disempowering you through your emotions, that's your opportunity to go into, choose the power seat of choice, recalibrate that emotion so it becomes more of a neutral to positive response. Now you've disempowered the disempowerment and you're beginning to empower your experiences and someone else's at a different level.
Okay, so let's stick with emotions here for a sec. Is emotional validation sometimes the enemy of personal evolution?
Oh, yeah. From what we've been talking about, our emotions. So let me ask the question to the listeners too. Do your emotional choices empower you? Period. That's it. Ask yourself that.
Great question.
And now we begin to have this answer. So again, how am I thinking? How am I choosing? What am I responding to? And is it empowering me? And when you begin to hone in on this awareness around this style of thought energy that I specialize in, I live my life from that set point. Now you look at everything very differently. You no longer, you don't even magnify or attract into you any type of victimhood because you are always at a set point of the power seat of choice. Even if the proverbial, you know what, is hitting the fan, it's coming at you, you still know I've got the confidence, the resilience, I've got the fortitude, I've got the tenacity, I've got the skills, the tools, the formula. I've got what it takes to empower all experiences. Now, I'm not saying everything goes this eloquently. There's the human condition built in, and there's another person or another bunch of people, and all of their energy is coming in. But if you choose your power seat and fill that in, whatever that may be, I'm going to be calm. I'm going to learn how to respond. I'm going to read more. I'm going to intellectualize things differently. I'm going to be less emotional and maybe more spiritual. Whatever each person's thinking, now you're shifting actual measurable energy that does have some slight directive out from you that can affect others. Now, two things usually happen. Well, three things. It can affect someone over there and make that person worse because they don't like it. They don't like if you are getting empowered and you're magnifying their disempowerment back to them, even though that's not what you're doing intentionally. It's what they're thinking and feeling because they're not aligned with empowerment. They're more aligned with disempowerment. you may get someone that says, whoa, that's so cool. I just saw somebody calm a conversation down in 30 seconds just by thinking these thoughts, just by asking, are you aware? What are you willing to do, etc. Third, you get someone that turns their back and they don't even care. So either way, you've evolved, you've elevated, you've empowered. And when I say empowered, I mean IN, internal power, thus EM, empowering those around you. So it's a win-win.
That was straight fire. So guys, we are going to take a very, very short break here to say, if this conversation is unsettling something in you, that's not accidental. This is the work Laura does, not to soothe, but to activate. And if this episode challenges your thinking, share it with someone you trust enough to have a real conversation with. If you're listening to this episode on one of the podcast platforms, take 5 seconds, hit follow, drop a 5-star rating, and leave a comment with what shifted your paradigm so far. This is how we grow the movement and how we keep bringing on guests like Laura who shift consciousness at scale. Follow us on Instagram at @𝗟𝘂𝗿𝗄𝗆46, at the Conscious Man 7 Podcast, or Todd Cave on Facebook to see what we get up to during the week. And if you like memes, I post a lot of memes on my stories, and you'll find I have some of the best memes out there as well. So follow me on social media. Also, check out the sponsor of our show, the 𝗚𝗵𝗿, at thekämbo.com, to get yourself some orgonite pyramids, tower busters, and jewelry, which create orgone energy, which is the life source energy, and neutralizes the nasty EMF waves that are constantly bombarding us. Use coupon code CM7 to get 10% off your order. Now back to Laura. So let's talk about engineered challenges and evolution. You say challenges are engineered into the human condition. Do you mean internally or structurally?
Both. And I know you already know the answer to that. You know, if we look at some of the beautiful, great ancient ruins around our world, the external, right, structure of that, as well as what it means internally, right? So I think that if we look at challenges as mechanisms, reactor stations, I'm trying to think of words that might like really ignite the listener. Think of challenges as battery stations. However, whatever you can look at, you know, some listeners are into boats and cars and gardens and, you know, decorating houses. So pick your analogy, but think about challenges within your hobbies, within your work, within your family dynamics, within your personal interest, and look at them as if they were placed there with purpose. And the purpose is to bring an awareness so that you become willing to do something differently about the challenge. So many of us look at a challenge as a difficulty. The word difficult, think even hearing the word like, I don't even want to do it. But if you say, well, that's a challenge, you automatically know, well, I can overcome a challenge, right? It's the famous story about the person that ran the 4-minute mile. Everybody was like, it can never be done. One person did it. The minute that person did it, like tens of thousands of people around the world did it. It's something that's built into our brain-mind matrix. We think in a limited way. It can't be done. Or we see someone that does it and then we think, well, that's just because they're a genius, or they went to this school, or they have some kind of mad brain that they can create something over there. No, somebody didn't see a limit. And I write about this in the book too, that what's the difference between someone that makes it and someone that doesn't? The person that made it didn't stop at the point that the person that didn't make it. They just went the next step. And then they were aligned with a person at that next step that stopped They said, nope, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go to the next one. And that example just keeps going up. So I think all of the challenges, they're on point. They're on point for personal elevation or personal evolution, as well as collective elevation and collective evolution. So I think if you look at them either way, whether you're elevating, which is a little bit different than evolving, but it's in that same environment, that same atmosphere of development, growth, upbuilding. I think if you look at every challenge that comes to you and you take it on as something of value, something that possesses power to help you shift and grow into the next level of your highest and best self, challenges will become a friend, not a foe.
You know, I did an interview with a guy called Peter Kennedy, and he said that when he talks to people and like they're really going through challenges and it's like really tough, he says, I get a little bit jealous because I know that at the end of their challenge, they're going to grow. And he says it's almost like, you know, with, a lot of love saying like, I wish I had that challenge because I'll get to grow. And it's all about a mindset shift, because I don't say have problems anymore. I say have challenges, which is like how you said with difficult. So, and I tell my clients all the time, I don't use problems. I don't allow them to use problems, because one of the things I've learned is that it is about vocabulary as well. So I always say I have a challenge or they have a challenge, and that just allows you to have this shift in mindset, which makes a huge difference in how you perceive it. Because the thing is how you choose to perceive it that changes the energy and the outcome of the thing, because it is just what it is, you know?
That's it. It's even like saying something's too hard. So when you walk into our training facility, there's just a copious amount of positivity all over, written and all over the walls, and the principles and the formula and energy and all of this. Everyone knows when one of the coaches, including myself, asks you to come and try a skill, they don't say, I can't, it's too hard. They just know from the get-go it's not allowed. We don't allow that mindset in. Just do it. You just touch it. That's it. Okay, so right now I have one of my groups. We're learning to do a 2-minute dead man hang on the high bar. Just hang. The average person can barely do 30 seconds, let alone 2 minutes. And they're older. This is an older group, 45 to 70. And I've got them doing things that like 20-year-olds can't do. It's up here. No, we're careful. We don't have them doing front handsprings on the trampoline, but a dead hang that helps longevity, helps mindset, builds confidence, builds wrist strength, all of that, arm, back, lifting things. They're all working towards it. Now, none of them got up and was like, oh my God, I can't do this. Or they know. I have one of my clients, I call her Buttercup. She's lovely. She has this very expressionable face, and we all crack up because when I go to put them into a challenge that I know is a true challenge physically, i.e. mentally, way, way emotionally, they already know. Don't let coach see that face. I'm like, just touch it. They always do so much more than they thought they were going to be able to do, because we think limited thinking all the time. Who am I to do that? Why should I do that? How could I possibly do that? I can barely lift that. I practice this with this group twice a week. I just did it, like I said, last night we had training and then lifting weights. Well, those are too heavy. Excuse me. They go and they grab them and they lift because, their reaction is quick, but now they catch themselves and then they respond like, I know. So my point of that is, always believe that you are capable of more than you are presently settling for. Always. You are full of universal potential. And you can direct that faith, you can direct that spirit, however you want. We're made up of some of the elements that create our galaxy. We have it in our bodies right now. And you're telling me you can't release weight, heal an outdated, pattern. You can't resolve a family dynamic. You can't exercise more, eat better. Of course you can. You're just unwilling. Now become willing.
Absolutely. So at what point does adversity stop being bad luck and become a developmental signal?
All the time. It's just whether you're aware of it. Again, this brings us back to that challenge. Adversity is built in. It has to be. We would still be living in caves, dying with no teeth, hunting animals. Adversity or whatever you all believe in, doesn't matter. We would still be far removed from where we are now. There would be you and I would not know each other exist without adversity. And we see it every day. Again, our academics, our education, our politics, our religion, our financial, everything. Just look at everything in our life, our personal well-being path. What is that? It's riddled with adversity. Too tired, have to get up, I have to walk the dog, put the kids to school. I got to work for a time. I've got to go to a PTA meeting. I have to pick up the dry cleaning. Oh, yes, we all do stuff. Adversity builds resilience. All right, bring it on. Give me one more thing. I've got it. Now, you don't do things to the detriment of your well-being or anyone else's, but oh my God, we're so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. We are so amazing. There's a scientific study, and I think it was when they were training 2 points. They were training either Olympians, and at the 40% mark of when they wanted to give up, there was a 40% margin ahead where they had the capacity to still carry on. The mind told them, I'm just using this as an example. I've run 5 miles. I'm done. It's where I'm always done. There was actually a 40% more higher level of potential for them to go, 40% more. So they could have run almost another 5 miles, but they wanted to give up. Why? There was also a study on, and I love this, and there's so many stories I could tell here of people that train in their mind, but don't really train, but train just mind alone, setting it up. I've always been a big proponent of this. I run in my sleep. I exercise in my sleep. I love it. It's just me, but it works. There's science and data and research to back this up. And the reason I'm not so eloquently sharing these stories is because when you think you want to give up, when you think you don't have it, you do. You absolutely do. Stretch yourself. Give yourself that opportunity to show you how absolutely remarkable you truly are and what you can create in your life. Adversity is a superpower. Use it to your advantage.
I'm going to echo what you said, and I'm going to tell people 2 places where they want real detail about exactly what you said are 2 books. One, You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza. He goes into copious amounts of studies and details to show the power of the mind and being supernatural. And one of the stories in, I think it's The Placebo Effect, was that exact same study about, they had a group of athletes, and there was one set that were basketballers and another set that were doing weight training. And they had 3 groups. One group did nothing. One group did only practice, and the other group that did all mental practice. And in both sets of studies, the people that were practicing shooting hoops for basketball and the gym people, there was, I think, like a 2% difference in the results. I think both groups had like 30% improvement. The group that didn't do any exercise, that did it mentally, had a 30%, and the group that did the physical work had a 32%. So it shows that how powerful the mind is, right? And this is one of the reasons why I personally love calisthenics, because calisthenics is it pushes your mind to limits that you can't even imagine, right? Like when you are going to do the planche or handstand push-ups and front lever, all those kind of stuff that people see me do on my social media, you literally have to prepare your mind to do them before, because they are so intense and so full body involved that you can never think you can't do it, because you simply wouldn't. And I do a lot of I can't remember the exact term he calls it, but I call it mental visualization. But it's basically practicing in the mind. So I would practice me doing the exact amount of reps and the exercise mentally before I do it. And that makes such a huge difference. So
It does.
I just wanted to share that with people if they want two good books to get exactly what you were saying, but in great detail, Becoming Supernatural and You Are the Placebo.
Yeah. Dr. Joe Dispenza is amazing. Just because the medical data, analytics behind his studies really do bring that accreditation to everything he's doing. So it's very hard to doubt the results that he and his teams are creating. But again, to bring it down for us regular people, just experiment with it. Just try it. So pick a challenge and begin to visualize it. Maybe when you're in the shower, maybe first thing you get up, maybe right before you go to bed. Doesn't matter. Take 30 seconds, take 3 minutes, take 3 hours. It doesn't matter what works for you. Begin to see yourself looking the way you want, feeling the way you want, doing something that you've yet to do. And it will prime the mind, and the mind primes the body. That's the cellular memory. That's the physiology activity. It all begins to move together. There is a communication system within us that knows. All you have to do is acknowledge it, invite it in, welcome it, turn it on, flip that switch, and begin to align with the greatness that is awaiting you. It's there.
Now, what I find is that a lot of people tend to have a lot of limiting beliefs. So how do people misuse trauma narratives in a way that stalls evolution?
Yeah, we touched upon this a little bit a while ago. It's the story related to the experience. Actually, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this, that there's like 50 to 80% of the story we tell ourselves isn't even true. Now, again, we're being respectful. We're not talking about very traumatic events. You know, I've had clients that have gone through a lot of very terrible things. There is a time and a place for those conversations, but we're looking at maybe some fair, balanced conversation around trauma and the story that we attach to how we felt. Most of us had trauma when we were younger. We were developing our mind. We were developing our emotion. We were developing physically. And in the process of developing, something came in and distorted that development. And so it skews things for us. We start to relate to the world differently, mentally, emotionally, physically, because of that event. So there's all of this information that starts to be gathered and set in place that then becomes a belief. And that belief then has directive over the patterns and the habits and the behaviors of how we go through our life. So I would just say, you are in the power seat of choice. Do you choose to let the past dictate your present and future? Or can you now bring an awareness as to how powerful you are to release the story that you attached to that event and start anew? Not dismissing anyone else's accountability or responsibility, but don't blame, don't shame, don't guilt. Don't go down that path. That's all negative for you. That's all sits in you. So hold them accountable for a moment know that something was wrong, incorrect, abusive, hurtful. Maybe, have a thought process to heal, unspoken healing, if it has to be that way. And now begin to make choices for yourself as to how you can change the story, rewrite the story. Some of my clients in the past really have had to go in and rewrite the entire story to heal through something very traumatic. You know, there was a neglect or an abuse or whatever it may be. And it could just be as simple as, I wish you weren't an alcoholic. I wish I didn't get beaten. I wish you didn't abandon me. And then, you know, you go deeper into that. But I would say from an empowerment perspective, number one, go to the proper healers that are needed for that trauma and where that aligns. Do your very best to find people that have great care and consideration to help you heal. And then position yourself into the power seat of choice. Make a choice and release it. And live a life in complete opposition of what that event and that story has become for you.
Okay, so let's dive one level down about rewriting the past. What's the difference between rewriting the past and reauthorizing yourself?
Oh, yeah, I love this. So rewriting is thinking about how you would have preferred it to have gone. Authorizing it is empowering it. Now we're going back to the adversity and the challenge becoming a mechanism for personal development rather than a deterrent of it. I went through alcoholism as a child. It created me to be an alcoholic. Okay, I'm going to rewrite that story. Simple. I wish my grandfather and father were not alcoholics. I wish I was stronger and did not become an alcoholic. I was weak. I relied on alcohol. Now I see that the alcohol, the drinking, and the neglect of the adults in the room, that did some harm to me mentally and emotionally. However, I am now in a position to at least recognize that differently. I talked with my father about my grandfather's alcoholism, and I found out that he was terribly beaten as a kid and put into foster homes. The only way he knew how to get through the day was to drink and numb himself out. Now, that's not an excuse. I'm using this as a story, not personally, but so the listeners can understand. That's not an excuse, but it's a reality. And that caused my grandfather to then treat my father similar. He didn't put my father in a foster home. That was a good thing, but he still drank. That was a negative. My father drank, but loved me, showed up at all my games, was at my dance recitals, helped me throw a football, but he still drank. I still noticed there was a pattern, and I took that pattern on. So do you see in that example how she or he empowered the story? I'm no longer rewriting it, but I'm authorizing the observance of it. My grandfather had reasons. My father had reasons. I get to choose mine now. I'm authorizing a new story for myself.
Okay. So is there a point where holding on to a story of harm becomes a choice rather than a wound?
Oh, God, yes. And so many of us do this. It isn't even no longer, let's say, an open wound. It is the reason for our existence. It keeps us mad, angry, judgmental, all of it. Hell yes, it gives us our reasoning, which is so disempowering because it's only a pattern based on an event from the story that creates the habits that is the false you. You were not born into physicality to be the pattern of the events in your life. You were born into the human condition to have adversity, to have challenge, so that you may rise above it, match it, and then supersede it, thus growing and evolving, elevating the collective energy.
That, I think, is a mic drop comment there. So fire. So we get shift gears and talk about forgiveness, authority, and a bit of taboo stuff. So you've said empowerment isn't about letting others off the hook. Why is that distinction so important?
Yeah, and again, I love this. The questions are already ahead of what we're talking about, which is pretty cool. It's not about saying you hurt me and I'm just going to forget about it. Not at all. It's saying, if I have the opportunity to be respectful to myself first and to you, may we talk about what had happened so we can maybe heal a little bit and have some movement away from it. If you can't do that, then you must do that for yourself. You just must do it for yourself. Because otherwise, you stay trapped. You're like a caged animal. You have the key, but you ignore it. And you just choose to feed the mind with the same minutia over and over and over again. You give yourself no room, no freedom, no space to become something different than that. So we hold on to it because it's a bedrock of excuses. And excuses are so much easier to live with than accountability and self-authorization.
Facts. I find that we as a species, we love our excuses. And I've made many excuses in my life. And I remember when I first started like my refinement process, as I call it, one of the first things that I realized was excuses are not allowed. I must take accountability and responsibility for everything that I say and I do, because when I was winning, that was my fault. When I was losing, that was my fault. So everything is my fault. So when you look at it like that, then your perspective changes, you know? And one of the key things that I found was forgiveness. But forgiveness is a bit multi-layered. So is forgiveness without restored authority actually a form of self-abandonment?
Oh, I love that. That's a great way of putting that. Probably. But again, it depends, because forgiveness, that's a rabbit hole, right? It really is. I think forgiveness is like faith and religion and spirituality and consciousness. It's a very unique, individualized choice and journey. If forgiveness and the word and the energy around forgiveness brings you relief, brings you healing, brings you completion, gains you empowerment, by all means forgive. But not at the cost of authenticating the forgiveness. And that is something you can choose to do without anyone else knowing it. And I really do believe that self-forgiveness gives us that ability to see that even though we can't imagine why we would partake in something that caused us harm, maybe some part of the evolutionary path as an individual needed that, again, adversity, needed that challenge, so that as you grow into your life, you will be able to bring value to someone else through that personal challenge. And I think coaches and writers and storytellers and movie makers and artists, people that are in leadership roles, we all usually have that experience. We've gone through things where we can authenticate the research and the data and the formulas and the body of work that we create, so that we can, with authority and compassion, say, I understand what that is to forgive. And again, you don't have to say it to the person, right? There's that famous, I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, so forgive me, world, Ho'oponopono technique. And oh my God, it's amazing. You'll have to read into this. There was a very well-known psychiatrist, I believe, in an insane asylum in Hawaii. And he went in and never saw a patient, never. Sat in his office and healed with each patient. So say John Doe in room 1, he would sit in his office and through his mind, he would say, I'm sorry, I forgive you. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. And I love you. And these are, and the data
yes.
and the research will blow even for people like us that are open, it's like, no way, but yes way.
I think it is, I'm sorry, I forgive you, and I love you. Something like that.
There's a thank you in there because you're saying thank you for the experience to get you to that place. But it was, I believe, Joe Vitale, who was once well-respected, had to do something with the movie The Secret and all of Rhonda Byrne's and all of that movement. So whether you're into that or not doesn't matter. But they recognize that story as a point of the power of forgiveness and how it worked without ever speaking with anyone. So my point is that you don't always have to go to the origin of that event. You can find your own words and your own way. It could be through dance, through gardening, through meditation, through a support group, through coaching, therapy, reading, just verbalizing, writing a letter. Release that part of your spirit or your soul or your heart energy that feels so weighted down by it. You really do empower the forgiveness when you do it for yourself.
Okay, the next question, I think you probably almost answered it, but I think there's still probably another level to go down. And it's, what does empowered forgiveness look like where reconciliation isn't possible?
Yeah. And again, it's a bit of a synchronicity here of the questions and the way that I'm speaking. This is such a very beautiful point of when alignment shows up. Yes, empowerment is for you, period. And when you make a choice to live an empowered life, and I don't mean that as, a platitude, like, oh, let's just all be empowered. No, this is the seriousness of your potential being fulfilled, your creative mind, your, innovation energy, your way of looking at life. There's something so purposeful about you being here right now in this 100-year experience, wherever you're falling in that 100 years. You matter. Show up. And the only way you get to show up is by truly aligning, tuning in, tapping in, engaging, activating a level of empowerment that you thought were for other people. And so a forgiveness, a completion, a resolution, whatever and however you want to look at that, it is all to empower your present and future self. So please don't make that a waiting period any longer. Release what was negative, honor it. If you can, you hold people accountable. If they are unwilling to be accountable, that is on them. That is another challenge for you to overcome. This is building up your resilience and your confidence and your potential and your personal development path. Take it on. You've got this.
Okay. So, a lot of people are empathetic and they feel stuff and what's not because, that's how they are. So why do people confuse empathy with self-erasure?
I love this. I think it's just the way that we're taught, how we're taught to think about ourselves and one another. And when we have deep empathy for someone, for me, it really is the most beautiful reflection of humanity. We're saying that we're not acknowledging what you're going through and bypassing it. We're stopping to be with you at this very moment, to understand and to validate what you're going through. And I think that's a very important distinction there. So empathy is something not everyone has, right? Empathy is something that not everyone can tune into readily. But when we see examples of it, I think it's important to become more of it than less of it.
I find that something like today, you find that empaths, they have this difficulty of basically forgetting themselves and just taking on everything of everyone. So you have like a complete opposite where people have zero empathy and can't get the other side of the argument or the side of the coin from the person, you know? And then there are other people that take on everything now that they kind of disappear because it's all about everybody else, where there's that, like, you need a little bit of selfishness to self-preserve, while the other person has 100% selfishness and care nothing about the other, you know? So it's a very interesting dichotomy, you know?
And that's something, again, that's the individual. So as I was expressing on a collective level, what empathy can do for us, if someone's allowing themselves to be saturated by everyone else, what does that tell you? That's a disempowerment move on their point. So they have to make a decision. They have to reset that set point for themselves. I want to be, or I am naturally empathetic to a point that it's almost distorting my own persona, my own potential, my own, wellness. So I have to now become aware that I'm giving more at the detriment of preserving more. And they have to become willing to create boundaries, which empaths, that's a challenge, right? They have to be accountable to their well-being. Otherwise, they won't own their empathic talents and energies anymore. Again, that's a very emotional kind of energy state as an empath. It's really filled with feelings. And so now they have to maybe add a bit more of clear thinking around it. I am just extending myself too far out and I'm starting to lose, I barely have, I'm tethered to myself anymore. And energy. It's a bit of a negative when I'm gifting out to the world too much of this natural reserve of empathy and I'm depleting. So it's a big lesson on self-awareness.
Yeah, so if we play on that, can forgiveness become a socially acceptable way to stay powerless?
I don't think so. Because if you're forgiving, you're empowering. Forgiveness comes with empowerment. I think if society as a whole forgives bad things, bad people, something happens in a group, that can get muddled there. But I think on an individual level, no, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was thinking along the lines of because we just had a pandemic and subconsciously we've forgiven all of the wrongs that have happened. And basically, I think that's keeping us still powerless because the same bad actors are in the world doing bad things. And we've, I guess, because we've not said anything, we've subconsciously forgiven all the wrongs because a lot of wrongs happened. And I
think there are people that are trying to right some of the wrongs. However, some of the people that are trying to right some of the wrongs might be doing wrong in the process of trying to right the wrongs. And that is because, unfortunately, I think the energetic structure of, let's just say, government and power and politics and all of that, it's really right now, again, I think it's very inverted for a reason. I don't know in my lifetime if we'll see an immense amount of healing and unifying energy right now. But I know we all want that, no matter which side, politically or academically, whether you're for police, against police, whether you're for good food or flipping the pyramid upside down. I don't know. Everybody has such a personal way of looking at all of what's going on. But I think collectively, there was a lot that joined in and lost their autonomy. Perfect example, we did not get affected by the pandemic. We did not lose a loved one that we were not allowed to see. We did not, vaccinate a child and they turned out to get very sick. We didn't go through a lot of what people went through. We had to get vaccinated, which I personally, in full transparency, did not want to do. I am a very homeopathic, naturopathic kid. I don't put anything in my body. I don't even take aspirin. I work really hard to eat well, exercise, stay calm, and stay healthy. Now, I do believe that when you need medicine is amazing and it's important. There's so much that came out of the vaccines that how do you know what side is right or wrong? I personally have a client who has a heart condition now that they were able to relate back to the vaccine. I also know people whose lives were saved by the vaccines. I don't know, how do you go there? The food pyramid, now they're saying, right? We've grown up, boom, boom, boom. How a few months ago they were saying eat Fruit Loops. That was like a food group. Come on now.
That's amazing. That's insane.
How do you? But it's all mixed up because maybe one person, let's say, on one political side is saying something that is really good and healthy, and we all know it, and then someone else on the other side the same thing. Yet when it all comes together, somehow it implodes, and we're all caught in the middle of everything. So, politics, religion, government, I don't ever go too deep into those topics because I am so ill-equipped to talk about them. I am not a lobbyist. I am not a senator. I never tried to be president. I don't understand vaccines. I'm not a doctor, though my husband is in the medical field. I know moments of information like we all do. So I don't get into those conversations. Those are emotional-based conversations. It's very challenging to have critical thought when you're coming up against all of that now. So I think the pandemic, so we had a neuromuscular training facility. It's in a 3,000 square foot building. I went and took half of the equipment and put it in my backyard and we worked out in the snow. I found a way to recalibrate it, kept my clients healthy, happy, and we worked out. We worked out actually when it was snowing at times. We just said, we made a collective decision to not join the masses and just carry on our business as best we could. I did research on my own. If you were flying, I would wear a mask. If I'm sitting in my car, I did not have a mask. I had an open window. More fresh air, the better. I don't know. Maybe there's little things, through the air. We're not doctors. We're not professionals. I think all we can do to live an empowered life is educate us what I taught my children. If you read something on this side, I want you to please at least give exact amount of attention to its opposition so that there are two sides to every encounter and every outcome. You have to make up your own mind. I'm not going to tell you how to think and feel, but you cannot listen to one and not hear the other. That is not a balanced human. You will become one-sided. And when you become one-sided, you easily get pulled down the current. Easily. So make sure that you can ground yourself as much as you can in the middle. You might move, and I don't mean this politically, but you might be a little to the left or a little to the right, just metaphorically. That's okay. Always work for neutrality. That's the power seat. That's the superpower, neutral. If you find yourself going too far in anything, we all know, right? Too much workout, you hurt yourself. Not enough, you hurt yourself.
True.
Gotta find the balance.
True. It's all about balance.
May have gone off, but still an empowering, part of the conversation.
True. I also talk about balance, and I think that is up to every individual to choose for themselves and make their own minds up, you know? So let's talk about individual power to collective evolution. How does elevated thinking ripple outward into leadership and relationships?
Yeah, and again, I think we kind of are moving in and just kind of beautifully tethering all this together. When we evolve, grow, and develop ourselves, mind, body, consciousness, spirit, soul, health, physical, mental, emotional, all of it, there is a frequency or an energy or a vibration. I'm not saying this in a spiritual or a religious way. There is science behind the measurement of the physical body. We actually do have an aura. We have energies that emit off of us. So if I'm moving through my day in a negative way, I am giving off negative energy, period. How people take it in, how they repel against it, how it knocks up against them, I'm not aware of that, right? Because I'm just doing my thing. When we become aware that we actually contribute either value or take value out of the human condition, now this is where self-accountability comes really fully into play. So when we choose to elevate our mindset, when we choose to deepen our heart coherence, empathy, compassion, when we choose to exercise and eat well and really authorize a life of wellness, all of these components start to move at a higher vibration, a higher level of being. We all know if we see someone fit, we're kind of like, whoo, that's kind of cool. They look good. That inspires me a little bit. Or maybe we get a little envious, jealous, or we get mad. That's, again, there's a challenge for you. If we see someone that's smart or intellectually stimulating, we might be like, whoa, that's so cool. That was such a great discussion. I never heard that. Oh my God, I got to share this podcast, right? This great host, these questions were amazing. And then, oh my God, this guest and the way, whoa, I've learned some new things today. Beautiful. If we see somebody showing compassion, not giving into any set mindset, but showing compassion. I hear you. I'm not judging you. I appreciate and respect your opinion, though I differ with it. Wow. That person is moving through the human experience at a higher level, a higher frequency. They're above the wave. They're not below it. They're not struggling for air. They're riding it. That brings in a level of energy that is conducive to collective elevation. I'm no longer taking out, or I'm no longer depleting through negative behaviors, patterns, thoughts, feelings, language. I am actually contributing high-level intellectual thinking. Doesn't mean it resonates with everyone, but it is stimulating on a higher level. It gets people's awareness peaked. It maybe they'll be more willing to do something a little. Maybe right now someone's like, you know what? I'm going to buy a pair of gym shoes. I'm getting up tomorrow. I'm going walking and I'm going to think with positivity. Maybe someone's saying, geez, you know, I've kind of been hard on my husband. I haven't said thank you in like years. That's my accountability. I think I'm going to make him a nice dinner this weekend. Critical thinking. I haven't been getting along with someone at work for whatever reason. I've been all emotional about it. I'm going to back off. Just going to be a little bit more clear about it. I don't know what they're going through. I think I'm going to ask them to meet for coffee for lunch, see what's going on in their life. Energy, whew, I just became a superpower conductor of neutrality to positivity. I am now contributing something of value to the collective.
Okay, so let's stay with that. What changes in a community when individuals stop outsourcing authority?
Yeah, we become leadership in action onto ourselves, which automatically conveys confidence, resilience, tenacity, empowerment. Don't mess with me in a negative way. Give me space so I can invite you in. I will be non-judgmental. I will listen with care and consideration. I may not agree with you, but I will listen. And I will have gratitude for the exchange of ideas and differences. Because guess what happens when we have differences? Those become challenges or adversities to some of us. Now we have opportunity to grow again. So when we are leaders unto self, I am my leader. I am a leader as a wife, a mother, a coach, an author, a writer, a speaker, but I'm a leader in my world for me. I take care of my mind, my body, and my consciousness. Now, when I go into my community, they can feel it. You know, when someone walks in and commands in a very positive way, whoa, that person carries himself a certain way. They dress a certain way, walk, talk a certain way. And that doesn't mean you have to be all fancified. It just means, oh, there's something about them. I'd like to ask them, what do you do? Why do you do what you do? How do you do what you do? So there's an energy that is admitted out when we become leaders of our own development. It now makes us stronger leaders for the community and the collective.
Very well said. Is collective evolution impossible without individual discipline of thought?
I would say it would be quite the challenge. I don't think anything is impossible, but we see it playing out right now. Collectively, we don't see too many individualized thinking humans. That's kind of redundant, but we don't. So we are witnessing on many fronts too much of sameness, not enough of uniqueness. However, when we do see uniqueness, look at how fast we judge it. We don't want the uniqueness. We want it to be part of the collective. So now this goes back into, comfort zones. Don't change things too fast. Don't think outside of the box. We really don't like outliers, even though we all would love to be one. But when we have outliers, we don't like them. Now, I'm not saying every outlier is doing everything well or good or positive either, but having outliers disrupts the commonality. You have to disrupt the commonality, or we don't individually grow. Therefore, the community and the human race as one can't grow. You need individual thinking. We wouldn't have an Einstein, a Joe Dispenza. We wouldn't have an Elon Musk. We wouldn't have, we wouldn't have President Trump. Talk about outside thinking, disruption. We would, good or bad, right or wrong, we need these moments to come in when the pendulum is swinging so far one way and all of this is neglected. There's consequences to it. And then when it's allowed to swing all that way, all of that is neglected. We, as a collective, can learn how to come together and say, we recognize the full pendulum up, and we recognize it up here. How can we bring it more centered and focused? And that is through authorizing individual intellectual development. You have to be a self-thinking human in order to have positive directive and effect on the whole.
It's true. And I don't know if it is definitely human condition. We're programmed or wired, or this was part of the worship gene that the Anunnaki put into us. But there's a very powerful experiment that was done, I think, from memory in the 50s, where there was a group that, I think there were a group of people, 5 of them or 6 of them were actors. And this one person was in the experiment and they had these lines on a board and they were telling them to see which of the lines. There were 4 lines from memory. 2 were the same life and the other 2 were different lives. So the person had to say, well, how many are the same life? So the one guy said there were 2 and all the other people said 3. So what happened is after a series of questions where all the actors went against what was reality, the guy changed his answers so that he could fit. I can't remember the name of the experiment.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But it's famous. And I don't know if this is or DNA or psychology, the worship gene that was put in us by the Anunnaki, or this is just programming. But whatever it is, groupthink is super powerful. And we always seem to want to fit in. Me, on the other hand, for some reason, I found fitting in very difficult. I always went against the grain. And even like, I remember my mother shared this story with me that I didn't even remember. So when I was a kid, there was this like obstacle race and you had like these different items in a line and you had a sack and you had to go and pick up each one. So all the kids started with the one closer to them first. I was the only kid that started at the furthest end. I came back. I was a young child. I was probably 6 or 7, but something in me just knew, nah, bro, I'm not doing everyone doing. I'm doing something different. And I guess this is the reason why I do I have a podcast and I speak about the things I speak about, because I was always an outlier and I never fitted in. And I'm okay with that. In fact, I tell people, if I'm fitting in, I know I'm doing something wrong. Because I realize that to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing, most of the time seems to be working for me. And I'm just going to keep doing it, you know?
I tell my girls all the time when they were growing up, picture 3 lanes and you're in a vehicle, and a vehicle is metaphoric and the lanes are metaphoric. If everyone is in the middle lane, where do you go? And they would say, we go to the right lane, mama. If everyone's in the right lane, in the middle lane, where do you go? We go to the left lane. If all 3 lanes are congested, what do? They said, we figure it out. We go up, we go outside of the lanes, we go under, we go through. And I would teach them to have this creative way of thinking. Never be in the congestion. It's distorted, period. You have to be outside of it so that you can observe it. You can't always observe it with a clear, rational mind. You can't always observe it with neutral to positive energy. You always can't be completely aware from a high-level intellectual thinking mind. However, by getting out of the congestion, you begin to breathe space for yourself to become aware, willing, accountable, to use clear and rational thought energy, and to neutralize a negative, distorted grouping of energy and become an outlier, thus creating an empowered life, i.e. positivity.
Absolutely. And before I forget, I actually won that race, you know. I beat everyone convincingly.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Just because I did that. And
so cool.
So that story just shows you, people, if you have the confidence and the belief in yourself and the courage, because I think you need courage to go against the grain, you can get a positive outcome, you know?
And even if you don't have that confidence, tap in. Even if you just suspend the doubt for a moment, tap into that lioness or that lion inside. Tap into that courageous part and go and be that outlier. That then gains the confidence to do it again and again and again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, what does conscious collaboration actually require that most teams avoid?
I think, again, it's the recognition that we are all unique, but we are one. And that's a simple answer to it. So therefore, what I do has effect on you, and what you do has effect on me. So consciously speaking, we're one. Therefore, we should not move as one, not act as one, but never forget that we have directive over each other. So be an individual, become an outlier, empower your own development so you may empower others, but understand that you are part of a collective.
Yes.
Just don't become it. There's a difference.
True. It's like almost being in the matrix, but not of it, you know?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, so let's get you on this one. If humanity is evolving, what behaviors prove it? And what behaviors expose that we aren't?
Oh, God. Well, exposing every day. Just turn on the TV. Don't really. Look at the news. I will say an intellectual and heartfelt response. Social media is absolutely exposing how unevolved we truly are. Without a doubt. It's, I'm not going to say it's the worst thing that's happened to us, but we were not intellectually prepared for it. So it has become a negative. It's become a glitch in the system, so to speak. We're not prepared for it. Obviously, it's abused. So we're not prepared for it. Recognition of, let's say, what is evident of elevation, evolution, empowerment, individuals that are doing their best to share knowledge, insight, perspective, and information so that those who are willing to take the time to subscribe and tune into a podcast and listen to a guest, those are the people that we are aligning with consciously, subconsciously, unconsciously. We are circulating one another and we are building towards an energetic structure that hopefully will balance out what is off balance.
Yes, I agree. And the thing with podcasts now is that they're becoming super powerful because the new form of education is listening to an expert, and then the stuff that they say you can go and research for yourself. And when you actually listen to these people more than once, you realize, well, actually you have a lot more faith in them than what is being told on the TV and in the media, because you can't pretend to be an expert in said field if there's no coherence in the things that you're saying, you know? So I do agree with what you said, where I think now shows like this and just the consciousness of podcasts where someone would tune into a guest and listen to them is showing there's a shift going on in our consciousness and in humanity. Because even my mother, who, and I say this with all the love of my heart, she has an attention span of a goldfish, but she listens but she listens to podcasts now, right?
Yeah.
And what's happening, she just says, Todd, like, you know, they're a bit long, but she will listen to them and she does it in breaks. And my mom is 69, right?
That's beautiful.
And even then, no, she sends me stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you that we're having a shift, and I just think people need to be brave, be the outlier, do the work on themselves, and be empowered and follow the stuff that you shared today. So with that being said, please tell the lovely people at the Conscious Man 7 where they can find you, how they can work with you. Tell us the name of your book again, and all of that great stuff.
Yeah. Well, Todd, this was absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed our pre-meeting, which is always such, I think, a very honorable moment to meet, because we're humans from different parts of the world and we're connecting on subjects that really matter to us. And so thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and your listening audience. And you can find me at thescienceofempowerment.com, of course, www.thescienceofempowerment.com. The website has a copious amount of free complimentary information. If you read just the website, you will become a smarter human. Even if you read about the life empowerment coaching page, if you read when I was a metaverse, I was an actual avatar in the metaverse. I did corporate coaching. That was amazing. A shout out to my friend 𝗺𝗂𝗿_𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗃 for her brilliance, bringing that into the world. if you read the blogs and the articles and then the media page with all kinds of wonderful hosts, you and I will be on there as well. So the website is really a unique place for people maybe just getting interested in what is empowerment. How can I become an empowered individual? What is the J3=E? What is awareness, willingness, critical thinking, energy? Never thought about being an energy being, which we are. That's all we are, is energy. We're just a little condensed here. So please go to the website, and there's an area that you can email me and just, hey, I heard you on the podcast. I loved what you said. I'm confused about this. I picked up the book, which you can do at Amazon, The Science of Empowerment by Brennan Ballet. Please pick the book up, write a review, and reach out to me via my website. Let me know you got the book. This is how it all started. I wrote the book for the love of sharing knowledge. People started reading the book, reaching out to me, asking if I would coach them, and thus I became a transformational empowerment coach. Then through my own research and the people and the mentors, such as Dr. Joe Dispenza, I then really honed in on thought energy and started listening to what was I as a human before the world had some effect on me and my childhood. If we go back to that, we can almost see our little sparks of brilliance and genius that were in us that just unfortunately got covered over with life. And I really was able to tap into some level of thinking. I was giving empowerment speeches at Dr. Grenfeld's class in school before I even knew what empowerment was. So maybe tap into that inner child and that part of you that's still playful and curious, and maybe invite him or her to come out and show the world probably some very beautiful gifts that you have. And I speak on podcast. I've stopped counting, though. Everybody keeps telling me to go back and trace, but I've done well over 150 interviews now. I love meeting with podcast hosts. And I speak on virtual stages as well, as I've been invited. I did a talk in Costa Rica last year. And so everything about thought energy, empowering ourselves and our world. And I think the book is a great place to start, and then certainly coaching.
Yes, definitely. Laura's book is a great read, and you guys will enjoy it. So I encourage you to head over to Amazon and get her book. You won't be disappointed, and the reviews are stellar. From academics, business-minded people, you name it. They've even coaches, you name it. They've left a review on her book. So first class, and she is a #1 bestseller. So I think from memory, you are the first #1 bestseller we've had on the show.
Yeah, I keep forgetting to say that. I'm humbled. Yes, I've made the #1 best-selling list. The kind of negative is USA and like the New York Times, they don't acknowledge if you've published through a boutique publisher or for self-published authors. It's a very unique choice to become a self-published author, go your own route so that you have authority and you own your material differently than if you went through a machine, though the machine can help you sell more books, but that wasn't the reason for writing it. So yes, and I'm also, something fairly rare, is an Amazon 3-time best-selling author. There's lots of #1 best-selling authors, which is a feat, but there's something like 4 million books that go out every day. #1 best-selling. 2-time is pretty cool, but there's a small group and the 3-time best-selling category. So, and what I ask for people too, if you purchase a book, think about someone else that may need it. It's $20, I think, on Amazon, and gift it to someone that you think could really use it. I have police officers, sergeants, doctors, lawyers, counselors, school therapists. I have every kind of human being reading this book, people in the religious realm. I have people locally in the political realm. I'm trying to get their mind to open up to different perspectives. So really think about how you can empower someone's life by gifting them the book of The Science of Empowerment. It really does change lives.
Absolutely. And now that we know that you're not part of the machine, you're self-published, guys, go and support Laura's work, because she's all self-funded. She's all doing everything for herself, and there's no machine behind there. So go and Just like this podcast, we are not part of the machine. Go and give your support to Laura.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Guys, so we were just talking about empowerment and stuff. And one of the things that Laura mentioned is getting in shape is a way to empower yourself. As you know, guys, I can help you to get into shape. I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. Christmas was just finished, so we have probably put on a bunch of kilos and we need to burn off all that excess fat. So if you would like to level up mentally, spiritually, and physically, learn a bunch of cool skills and get direct access to me, work 101, and everything that Laura has in her book are the things that I talk about on my coaching. So get her book and also come and let me help you to get in shape. And if you would like to start that journey, you can hit me up on my Instagram at @𝗵𝗄𝗿_246 or my name 𝗵𝗃𝗿 on Facebook. Send me a message. Let's have a chat and see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army. And if you are on a spiritual journey or you would like to start a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, I can help you to get some magic mushrooms. So if you would like to get some, again, hit me up on my socials at @𝗵𝗄𝗿_246 or my name 𝗵𝗃𝗿 on Facebook. Now, one of the ways that we also help this podcast is that we have a merch store. So we have some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And the store is called Todd and Me. And today, I think it's very fitting that I have on the Truth Isn't Learned, Truth is Realized shirt.
Nice. Woohoo! Oh, I love that.
So yes, this conversation is a confirmation that truth isn't learned, truth is realized. So head over to our Amazon store, and if you do pick up any of our shirts, take a picture of yourself, tag me on social media, and I will shout you out in one of the podcasts, and or I will tag you in my stories and give you a shout out. Now, if you are listening to this podcast and you know on one of the podcast platforms and you just don't like all the ads, and that's another way that we have to help fund this podcast, you can become a member of our Patreon or Locals community, and you will get early releases of all podcasts. They're completely ad-free. You get to send me messages and have direct access to me because I get tons of messages on social media to the point that sometimes I just can't keep up. But all of my Patreon and Locals members will get first responses from me. So for just a few bucks a month, you can help support this podcast, get yourself an ad-free experience, and you can join the Compound Body Training Army and the Conscious Man 7 family. So yes, guys, and also, guys, another way, if none of that resonates with you, but you would still like to support the podcast, please visit our sponsor, The 𝗵𝗵𝗿, at 𝗵𝗵𝗿.com and get yourself some cool organite. They have some cool pyramids, tower busters, jewelry, and you can get, she also has a book on there, and you can protect yourself against all these nasty EMFs. So get yourself some organite, and you can help support this podcast at the same time. So guys, if this conversation challenged you, comment with the insight you resisted the most. That's usually the one that matters. Like this episode, subscribe to the Conscious Man 7 podcast, and share it with someone who is done with surface level growth and ready for real inner authority. Tag me on Instagram or Facebook as you listen. I love seeing where you tune in from. And if you want to go deeper into the things that we spoke about, get some tools for life, and finally break the patterns of all the links for Laura will be in the description below. Thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for supporting the mission, and thank you for choosing to evolve. We aren't just a podcast anymore. We are a movement. We are the Conscious Man 7 family. Laura, many thanks for being a guest on the show today. This was an awesome conversation. And like I said, you are the first best-selling author we've had. So the podcast is improving in quality all the time. So many thanks for being a guest, and I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. Me too.
Guys, this was another episode of the Conscious Man 7 podcast, the place where we go beyond the veil in search of the truths that they hide from you to help you reclaim your power and step into the truest version of yourself. You are the help that you've been looking for. So remember, folks, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep being the change you want to see. Speak to you soon. Cheers and namaste.